we had a superstar team. Josh Rafferty from the Ultimate Fighter 1 was the head coach. He brought me in. We had Stephen Bonnar, also the Ultimate Fighter participant, and probably the whole reason why MMA is so big today. He was here. He's actually here at Fight Island with us, so we have kind of a reunion. But
Eric, I think before you say Harry, Eric, I might be. I have to my memory. I want to say Stefan may have been involved in Impact Wrestling and professional wrestling for a brief time when Bobby Lashley, King Mo, Dan Lambert, Mr. in charge of American Top Team, who's a huge pro wrestling fan, was like a spokesman. John Hartnett. They did a MMA, American Top Team versus Impact Wrestling wrestlers a few years ago. And Stefan may have been involved in that too. It's just how these things all sort of come together is interesting.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley was a teammate of mine. He was in the Army with me. So we joined the Army together, actually.
What was that like with Bobby? Because Bobby's doing great. He's in WWE right now. He's also very successful in MMA, crossover, doing well, has done well with both.
Yeah, I remember when Kurt Angle had came to the Olympic Training Center, and Bobby was Bobby was training with us, and that's when Kurt ran into Bobby, saw him, and said, "Damn, I think you could probably be a pro wrestler just by looking at you." And then you throw in the athletic ability and the fact that he comes from wrestling. It just made a good fit. So Bobby's been doing his thing in WWE, and he's been doing great. He was in Bellator as well. I got fighters in Bellator. I think I have 5 now in Bellator, 5 or 6 in Bellator. I have the greatest fighter of all time for Bellator history, Patricio Pitbull. I have Patricky Pitbull, who's got the most knockouts in history. I have Leandro Alter Ego, who's going to be fighting on October 15th in a title eliminator fight. If he wins that, he fights for the title. I have Mateus Matos, who's I've been training for about 9 years. I have Arya Stark, Ilara Joanny. She had her debut in Bellator last year. And then now Hodor. Augusto Gugu, and he's in. He just got signed by Bellator as a heavyweight. So we got a lot of big things, and then in the UFC, you got Triple C, the greatest combat athlete of all time, Olympic champ, 2-time UFC and champ in the UFC, and beat the greatest of all time to become the champ. And we have the Korean Zombie, #1 featherweight. He'll be fighting for the title. He'll be fighting here in Fight Island October 17th. If he wins, he should be fighting for the title also against Israel's teammate, Alex Volkanovski. So we're coming after that City Kickboxing. We're coming after all their titles. And let's see. And, of course, Paulo. Saturday. Paulo's going to make history, reach his destiny, become one of the only fighters from Brazil to ever claim the title as an undefeated fighter. And I can't wait till UFC 253, prepare to be erased.
Eric, you've been around this business and in this combat sports for a while, so you would know this better, I think, than anyone that I could ask. How difficult is it to be an undefeated champion?
It's really difficult. Henry was an Olympic champion and fought Demetrius Johnson. He was undefeated, and he got humbled, per se. Patricio Pitbull, the greatest fighter of all time, in Bellator. But in my opinion, I coach across all promotions. I believe he's a pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. And he's not undefeated. These guys have been able to pick themselves up from defeat, evolve, and become better fighters. But by being their coach and being a coach to some of the, probably the 2 greatest fighters in MMA, with Patricky as well, Patricio, and Cejudo, I now I'm at a point where my fighters don't need to lose to learn anymore. And that's what I'll bring into Paulo's, that championship mindset, how to train smart. It's not always about training hard. I mean, that's kind of how we do it when we're in wrestling. It's just balls to the wall. But I've learned that, wrestling doesn't have a lot of money in it. You do it in high school, you're retired about 18, or you retire right after college at 22, and you use the skills and attributes that you learned from this great sport and transition it into the next chapter of your life to succeed. But if I almost lost my train of thought.
With MMA and wrestling, wrestling that's usually at high school, college, and you don't make any money with wrestling. But now with MMA, you can make some money with wrestling, or at least have that skill.
Right. So I was talking about the transitioning Undefeated. So now you don't have to, what I was just trying to say, now I'm at the point where I don't need my guys don't have to lose anymore to learn. And because I've done it already with some of these great fighters where they've lost, they've learned, and they've gotten better. And now I use, what I was saying was, you retire, there's no money in wrestling. But in MMA, all of a sudden, in this world, you get a little bit of success, and a lot of people come to want to help you. Hey, I got this new piece of equipment. Hey, I'm a doctor. Hey, I'm a sports psychologist. Hey, check out this. This right here is Weens Pro. So this vest right here is $20,000. It's a whole wireless whole body electro stimulation vest. I'm working out right now, with it on. And all my fighters are going to be able to use this. And you don't get people approaching you in wrestling like that. You don't get people coming to say, hey, I'm the best sports physiologist from this company, and I'm a big fan of yours, and I want to work with you guys. You don't get that in wrestling because there's not too much media. So me, I have the personality. I've realized that the more I am myself, and the more I put myself out there and be more outspoken and amplify myself and be diverse and travel the world and speak different languages. I speak English, Spanish, Portuguese. I can handle myself in Russian, Japanese, Chinese. And when you do all that, Henry's mother once told Henry that when you speak two languages, when you speak another language, your opportunities double. And he used to have to do all these interviews in English and then Spanish and then Portuguese. And now he speaks Portuguese as well. And it's true, your opportunities double. And that's what I've noticed is that I speak the more languages I speak, which I actually probably got from my father, is that a lot of more people approach me, and I absorb what they say. Hey, sports psychologist, boom, I learn from them. A sports physiologist, I learn from them. New equipment, we learn from them. You come home, you got a $20,000 piece of equipment at your doorstep, and you didn't, and now you get to share this with your fighters. So I think that's part of the reason how I've been able to, when I say like now my fighters don't need to lose anymore, because now I have all this knowledge in me that I could share with them, and that's I consider that a big part of the reason why I have the number one team in the world with 4 world titles, and on Saturday we're going for number 5.
Fab 5, all that resources, all the knowledge, all the experience, nutrition too. It all comes together. You build.
Nutrition is huge. That's the big one. That's probably one of the first things that I started learning. Was I ended up the wrestlers and the boxers, all the Olympic sports, we all cut weight wrong. Nobody's doing it right, and because these sports come from tradition. You can meet a wrestling coach in high school, and they're still telling you to put on a plastic bag and suck on a lemon. We have evolved so much from then. That the way to cut weight, you don't cut weight in high school anymore because of those caveman techniques and people hurting themselves there's different ways to cut weight now. There's different ways to how much water you drink. I used to drink no water to make weight. And now it's the opposite. You water load. So just the knowledge and everything's evolving because of MMA. The fastest growing sport in the world, and I'm honored to be at the top of it.
Hey, Eric, Coach Jacob have you sucking lemons? I didn't know this.
No, he didn't have us be doing. Coach Jacob never had us do anything. I put it on myself. I put it on myself to not eat and go run at lunch and throw a garbage bag on myself. I put it on myself to run to school, to run home from school, to do 1,000 push-ups a night, to do 1,000 sit-ups a night. I mean, I put it on myself to train like a madman. But even now, it's about training smart, not long. When you train like a madman, you retire at 18. You retire at 22. You got to be smart, and that's kind of what I bring to my fighters. Now we don't have to lose to learn. I've done enough losing. My greatest champions have lost enough. You know, Henry's only got 1-2 losses. Patrice Pitbull, a couple losses. But from there, they learned to never make those same mistakes again. And now I bring that knowledge and wisdom to my fighters, to my new stars, to not make the same mistake as them. So now we're getting to world titles as Undefeated.
Building success from failure helps to make a champion.
And that works in any other sport. You know, Michael Jordan said that he there's a quote where he says, how many times he missed the shot. I missed so many, that's why I win. And, I consider like Henry to be the Michael Jordan of wrestling, or Michael Jordan of MMA. And Patrice put Bill to be the Pele. Or possibly, I like to say, Paulo to be the Pele of MMA, and then Patrice Pitbull to be the Ayrton Senna, and then Ayrton Senna is one of the idols of Brazil NASCAR racing, Formula One, and he died while racing, so he's like a huge inspiration for all of Brazil. And when Henry beat Demetrius Johnson, we were in Miami. We went up into the suite of the Miami Marlins with Derek Jeter, and Derek Jeter had one of his best friends in the owner's suite there, and that guy was by the name of, well, I'm not gonna say who he was yet, but he looked at me and goes, "You're the Phil Jackson of MMA." And you know who said it? Michael Jordan.
That's amazing, Eric. That's amazing, man. So when he says that, what do? You just say thank you and move on?
I was probably blushing in shock.
There you are, Eric. This is so amazing.
That's what we strive to. That's what we strive to do. We're striving for excellence. Striving for excellence is something I've been doing ever since high school.
But Eric, it's amazing too when other athletes from other sports, other disciplines, you can recognize them as that, and then they recognize you as that too. How do you just stay humble with all that? Michael Jordan is saying this to you.
Well, I would say, hold on, I'm looking for something, a quote that I like.
Go for it.
And I don't know about it. I've learned to, humble is one thing, but I've always told my fighters, you can be humble, but you gotta sell the fight. And it's okay to grow so much that nobody knows who you are anymore. I don't look for approval of others for mental stability. If I'm rejected, I move on. I don't shrink myself to fit the person that I've grown. I live in my purpose. I love my truth, and I strive to be higher I strive to be a higher self, and sometimes that means doing what I'm doing, getting out there, being outspoken, getting on, getting my fighters to really sell their fight, and getting on the mic, and getting on doing pro wrestling, and getting on doing media, and challenging the greatest teams out there, like City Kickboxing and Conor McGregor's team, SBG. We got rivals with them, and I'm at the forefront pushing those rivals. So I don't, in my opinion, humble. Catch me out of my environment. We all go hang out, have a drink, but it's hard to catch me out of that because I'm 24/7 thinking about. In my mind is always spinning. How can we get the biggest fights in the world? How can we, I want who's going to be the next, which fight's going to be the next Conor McGregor versus Mayweather? And my goal is for something like an event like that, extravaganza like that, would be to be my fighter. And, this event, UFC 253, the last style bender versus the eraser, two undefeated fighters going at it for the first time in history. Bad blood between them. Fight Island. The UFC world title on the line. His coach was coach of the year last year. 2019 coach of the year because he had two UFC champs. I have 2 belts from the UFC and I have 2 more from Bellator. So, the competition is there, and right now is not the time to be humble. Right now is to call them out and let them know I'm coming for those belts. We are coming for the belts. SBG, Conor McGregor's team. We're coming to invade and conquer Ireland's SBG. We're coming to the island of New Zealand to invade and conquer what's never been conquered, and conquer City Kickboxing. So, right now is not the time to be humble.
So, Eric, is this a different Eric from back in Coral Springs High School? Because I remember you, and this is from a perspective of watching you, of being very hardworking, very dedicated, but also quiet. But was that always in you? You always had that self-confidence, that drive, and that just determination to go for it.
Oh yeah, that started from. You know what? I was visiting my sister's last month while I was down there, and she had an old videotape, cassette tape, and I think I was 6 years old, and I had gotten in a fight with 6 people, six guys. I think I was jumped, and I was talking about it on the thing, and I was bringing up how I fought them and beat them up, and 1 against 6 or something. I was probably 35 pounds at the time. I don't even know. 40 at the most, because I remember in 7th grade I wrestled 73 pounds. So in 1st grade I couldn't have been that much. But that's always been in me. I think that warrior ethos, that warrior spirit, has always been in me, and that's probably why I got into wrestling, probably why I joined the Army. I used to get in fights at Coral Springs High School. That's how I got into wrestling. The vice principal, like you said, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I'm seeing you in my office all the time. Why don't you come out to wrestling practice?" And here I'm thinking there's going to be some chairs involved, the top rope, and blah, 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 but there wasn't. And I remember going into that wrestling room, and they lined everybody up, and I want to say I took about the first 2 or 3 people down, and a takedown wins it. Little tournament in the center on my first day, and I've never stopped. I've never stopped wrestling since then, and it's been since that first time I stepped on that wrestling mat, I haven't stopped. But have I changed? Yes. Like I said, I've outgrown myself, and I didn't come this far to stay the same. You know, and you change when you travel. Travel is is one of the greatest things you can do if you can do it. And even when I couldn't do it, I still did it. You know, even when I didn't have the money to do it, I still did it. I remember wanting to go to wrestling camp, and I had no money, and I think the camp was like $1,200, $2,000, and this is back then, which is a whole lot of money. Coach Jacob, you know, gave me a piece of paper. We replicated. He took copies of it and goes, "All right, start going around the city." I ran all around the city, passing out flyers, trying to raise money to go to wrestling camp in Minnesota for a month. And so that was the first time I started traveling. So then when I joined the Army, I traveled the world. Wrestling has taken me around the world to places I've never dreamed of. I've been to probably, I don't know, 50 countries. You know, I've wrestled in Croatia. I've wrestled in India, Australia, Russia, Ukraine, all of South America, Germany, in London, Paris. I mean, you name it. I've been to all these places. So to say I'm the same, I am definitely not the same. So I mean, but that's part of growing up and continuing to evolve. The key is not to be the same for me. The key is to evolve 1% every day. And that's probably one of my goals, to not be the same, to continue to improve myself, to become the best I can be. And I think I've been that way probably since high school. As far as being quiet in high school, you know what? I was quiet because I was different, because nobody had the same goals that I had. I remember there was a Coach White. I don't know if you remember Coach White. He coached at Deerfield. And
I remember Eric. I remember Coach Dan Burns. Coach Burns.
Right, he was at Deerfield, but Coach White was at, I want to say, Deerfield before him.
Okay.
Coach White passed away, but Coach White was a state championship coach, but he was at Coral Springs High School as a shop teacher. And I would run to school every day, and he would be at the cafeteria sitting, having his coffee, looking over his, plan for the day, and I would just go there and sit with him every day. That was like one of my friends that I would coach, because we would talk about wrestling. And we would talk about, just achieving goals, or he would tell me stories about wrestling, and may he rest in peace. But that was just like, when I say different, is being quiet, because nobody was doing what I was doing. I didn't go to parties back then and drink. If I went to a party, everybody was drinking except me, and I was like the odd man out. Matter of fact, I would run to the party in plastics and not drink, and then run home in plastics. So it was like I was always different in that aspect, and I did the same in college.
And Eric, look where it got you. Eric,
I did start drinking when I was in college, though, so I kind of stopped now. I don't drink but
hey,
yeah,
there's
for sure.
There's train smart. There's train smart, and there's drink smart too.
Well, my personality definitely started coming when I got to college, and then when you turn 21, you go out, you have fun, you go out with the boys. Arizona State was probably the #1 party school in the nation at the time as well. So, we had a good mixture, a good balance of partying and wrestling at the time. And, I've kind of, I've never been married, never had kids. And that's also probably part of it. I tell you the truth, I've been on the road for 9 years, literally 9 full years. Ever since I went to Brazil, I've had my house rented out for 9 years and haven't been to it. And at least my house in Colorado Springs. I live in Arizona, but I haven't even driven my car in 9 months this time. I think it's at Henry Cejudo's house right now. 9 months. He's gonna kill me if he hasn't towed it yet.
You tell Henry that somebody's got to take that car around the block Because if not, that car is going to go dead if it's not being driven.
Fuck, he should. He might need to, man. That's happened a couple times. I might just get rid of it. I might get a lifted truck.
Have Henry sign the car. Have Henry sign the car if you're going to sell it, and make a little extra money on the car.
Yeah, that'd be something. But we got him sponsored by Lifted Trucks, and he got his own 2020 Renegade Jeep. So I think if we win this fight, Paulo got a truck from them too, the Eraser. So if we win this fight, I think it's high time the captain gets a truck as well.
Captain America's trucking, yes.
LiftedTrucks.com, WeensPro.com. You know, we've been fortunate. The other thing about what I talked about is BioAccelerator. That's a stem cell company. How are we doing things without losing stem cells, man? I've learned that stem cells renews your body, it regenerates you. And my fighters, Henry got it, Patricio Pitbull got it. Paulo the Eraser is going to go down to Medellin, Colombia, and also get it after he wins this fight. I'm going to get it as well. So that's something that we talked about how I said in wrestling, nobody's coming to you, hey, would you like some stem cells? But in MMA, it happens. So, I bring that knowledge to wrestling. I sent messages to some of the greatest wrestlers that are on the team right now and said, hey, you got. I've learned some things being away from the sport, being in MMA, and I could bring this. Here's some of the things I learned, and I've sent those messages out to them. Hey, these are some of the things we're changing. We're doing heart rate variability now. Now we don't train without a heart rate monitor, and we have to go a certain a heart rate. One day it's high, another day's low, and we have to monitor it. We have to monitor our sleep. We have to monitor our our nervous system, our strength and endurance. There's things that measure that every day, so your fighters don't get injured. So that's what I mean. Like, we don't have to lose anymore to learn, and that's how we get undefeated champions.
And that's interesting too, because even in pro wrestling, even though it's scripted, but they have to be good athletes. They have to be very focused into what they're doing, and they're going the stem cell route as well, the athletes. And you mentioned the amateur wrestling, and I could see that because MMA has a lot more visibility, a lot more branding, a lot more sponsorships, where you don't have that in amateur wrestling. So, of course, being able to do that with MMA, you're going to have a lot more opportunities, like you said.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, I was the first one to bring an MMA fighter to BioAccelerator, and we call it BioX-Man, MMAN. The first BioX-Man was Patricio Pitbull, but now I brought Henry there, myself and Paulo were coming through. But pro wrestling, after that, Kurt Angle's went down, Rey Mysterio's went down, Kevin Nash's went down. All these, let me see, what is that? The Rhino, I think is one?
Rhino, yes.
Rhino went down. Tons, Kurt Angle, and now a bunch of MMA fighters are going down to Colombia to get it done. So we've even had some major influence on pro wrestling. As they've had influence on me, I've somehow given back to them.
That's amazing.
In that way. And now these guys are feeling like they're renewed again. Ken Shamrock, Stephen Bonnar's going down. So it's amazing how it's all come full circle.
Well, Eric, that's all happening in Colombia or Brazil, where all those people, all those athletes are going. Are they going to Colombia or Brazil or other places that you mentioned?
No, so I'm BioAccelerator. I guess I feel like I'm a consultant for BioAccelerator and Medellin.com. I've introduced the president to the president of Bellator. You know, we brought them to Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan's now talking a lot about BioAccelerator, but it's in Medellin, Colombia.
That's awesome, and that's amazing, because I read a little bit about it. Actually, when you mentioned Kevin Nash and Rhino, those two I knew had done that, and just seeing other athletes being able to do that, it's going to hopefully help them not just in their careers, but their after careers.
Yeah, you know how it all started was Eric Stofers had reached out to me because Real Sports with Brian Gumbel wanted to do an episode on, you know, preventing CTE and sports that have head trauma, football, hockey, and MMA. So it's actually the hub, the base is in Arizona, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, we heard you're the like I said, they come to you. They said, we heard you're the man to talk to. And that's because I put myself out there, you know. And they came to me, and I said, yeah, I got four fighters right now that could do it. You know, Henry Cejudo, Korean Zombie, Patricio Pitbull, Patricky, Paulo, and ended up, they really wanted to do it was supposed to be Henry first, but the time frame didn't work out, and ended up being Patricio Pitbull right before he fought for his world title against Michael Chandler. 7 weeks before he fought for the lightweight against the greatest lightweight in Bellator history, Michael Chandler, and he knocked him out in 1 minute. And now Michael Chandler's in the UFC as the backup for the world title between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje. So you could just see how good my fighters are, Chance, and how the stem cells have helped them out. And now, you know, we're just all flourishing now. We're all at the top of our game.
I could talk to you for so long. We'll wrap it up in a few more minutes, but I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and hopefully we could do this again real soon, Eric. You mentioned about all that technology and biomedics and just things like that. And I know in South Florida, there's something called Sanford MMA, which used to be Hard Knocks 365. And Henry Hooft is all involved with that group. And I'm just curious because that's something a little different, because they're using some of what Sanford Health, they got the Sanford Health on board to do this Sanford MMA team. So not only is it about training and fighting when you're training, but it's also about health and the cardio and your heart rate and things like that. I didn't know if you knew much about what they were doing down here with Sanford MMA, with Sanford Health.
I don't know what they're doing with Sanford Health, but I know they're also changing the game by connecting with them and teaming up with them. You know, Henry Hooft is awesome. I'm a big fan of his, and Kamaru Usman is a champ from there, and he used to train at the Olympic Training Center with Henry as well, with Henry Cejudo, and you know, Greg Jones. Greg Jones is probably one of the greatest college wrestlers in history. 3-time NCAA champion out of West Virginia, and he's doing awesome. I love to see the wrestling coaches to do awesome, because especially wrestling coaches that come into MMA, because I'm a wrestler at deep down, that wrestler at heart, you know, and you know they might be competition, but I love to see them do well, and it's good for the sport. It's good for wrestling. And
it's good for health. It's good for health.
It's another avenue for wrestlers. You know, MMA. You know, a wrestler has a short, really lifespan. You know, 99% retire at 18, and that 1% wrestles in college, gets recruited to college, and then then 99.9% retire from that 1%, and only 0.1 go on to try to make an Olympic team, and. So there's another opportunity to actually stay within, you know, the sports hemisphere and practice and evolve your craft and share it. And that's what I'm doing. I found my niche in Brazil, and then now brought it back to the U.S. And you know, I see Greg Jones doing it over there at Henry Hooft's gym at Sanford MMA, and they've connected with health services, and wow, you know, I wish we had something like that. But I have you know, at Fight Ready, at my gym in Arizona called Fight Ready, we have our team leader. His name is Dave Zowine, and real important to the success of myself, and Henry Cejudo, and he's helped so many fighters achieve their dreams, and he has his own medical staffing company. So we have a little bit of our own too. Maybe we even had it before Sanford. So the competition, we were first, baby. It's called MGA Healthcare, out in Scottsdale, Arizona. So Dave Zowine came from MGA, and then he bought Fight Ready and became the owner of Fight Ready. So maybe, shit. Now that I think about it, I think we did it before Sanford MMA, so we're still number one.
But yeah, because Sanford MMA is still fairly new as far as when they changed over. They were Hard Knocks 365. That was just strictly MMA training. And then Sanford MMA got involved in Deerfield Beach, and they moved everything there, and nice facility and doing all that. But that's been very recent. That's been very recent.
Yeah, and it's going to attribute to their success. It's a huge part of the success. A lot of these people are in fighting. It's not, you don't just get into fighting, you're rich overnight. Or success doesn't come overnight. Sometimes it takes 10 years to get to that moment where you're at the top of the world. And I've experienced that moment a couple of times in the last year or two. 10 years it took Henry to become a UFC champion after he won the Olympics. Patricio Pitbull. And now we have 2 champs, which is unheard of, from the same teammates, along with myself. So, world title number 5 is coming.
The big 5. All right, so Eric, tell us then too specifically the training facilities that you're involved in, and if anybody wants to check things out, where can they check things out for you or for any of those training centers?
Yeah, my main teams are Fight Ready out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Pitbull Brothers. So the Pitbull Brothers, Patricio and Patricky Pitbull, I have a full team there that I'm here there probably half the year, and I'll probably shoot out there right after right after we win this world title. And then we have... and then my Instagram is Captain America's, CPT Americas. My Twitter is CPT DAS Americas, Captain Das Americas. I made that one while I was in Brazil, Captain of the Americas. And, Facebook, I'm always on Facebook, the Ultimate Fighter Coach on Facebook. But you can find me Saturday night, UFC 253 on Fight Island, making history with Paulo the Eraser Costa when he becomes the new UFC middleweight champion of the world.
That is awesome. There he is. Listen, Eric, U.S. Army, Arizona State University, Coral Springs High School in South Florida. He is Captain America's. He's doing his thing. This has been awesome. I'm wondering, have you heard anything from Lee Pritz lately?
Of course, me and Lee are friends now. I think there should be an article on that with me and him. 2 guys that grew up. I was in the state finals with him. I was in the regional finals with him. I was in the district finals with him. I wrestled him at the Olympic trials. And now he's at Arizona State. He coaches at Arizona State. And he's one of the best coaches in the nation. And him and I are who would think two kid wrestlers out of South Florida are doing big things and changing the world and the world of sports. And so yeah, Lee Pritz. I call Lee Pritz all the time hey Lee, I'm coming to Arizona State to the duel tonight. Can you get me some good seats? or I call him. He's brought his guys to my gym when Corona closed down Arizona State University's wrestling room. They started coming to Fight Ready. So when my fighters need a wrestling partner, even Henry Cejudo, just now we fought Dominic Cruz. I hit up Lee Pritz. Hey Lee, I need somebody. Who do you recommend? I need one of the Arizona State wrestlers to come be Henry's training partner. And he recommended, Kramer. He's recommended. I've called him on a few of my world title fights, and he's given me advice on oh, okay, here's this wrestler, use him because he's good at this and that. So, yeah, Lee and I are boys. You know, kind of like Cobra Kai.
Yes.
Kind of like Cobra Kai. Well, those guys ended up not being boys. I don't know what happens for the third season, but for now, but it's kind of like that.
Yes.
Exactly. To tell you the truth, it's exactly like that.
That's amazing. And so here's what we're going to have to do. Here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to get you and Lee to do one of these together. And the three of us will talk about the old wrestling days. That is so cool because you don't hear too many success stories at that level for South Florida kids because, let's face it, there's no college wrestling in Florida.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm wondering when we're going to be put in the Hall of Fame for Florida. So I'm waiting.
More exposure, more things like this, so people will know. No, it's true. So people will know would be why. But when you think of amateur wrestling, a lot of people don't think of Florida. And there's several factors why, but I think of one of the big ones is because you don't have the college wrestling after that. And when you hear of amateur wrestling, you still think of like Iowa State. You mentioned Arizona State, and some of the places in the Midwest even like that. And you don't hear when you associate amateur wrestling, you don't say Florida. So when you hear somebody that's coming out of Florida, you're like, what? They're amateur? Really? What? But I think like you and Lee are two examples of two that have come out of Florida and have done big, great things. And I think that will be the stepping stone to the exposure and to the honors and the accolades and things like that. I'm hopeful anyway.
Yeah, I hope so too. I was put in I think the Broward County Hall of Fame about 10 years ago. Or Wrestling Hall of Fame, at least. I think. Remember exactly the title, but I think it's time for a little bit bigger now.
Yeah, I do too. Exactly. So, all right. So
we're gonna have to put you on that one because I think the journalists are part of the voting process.
Well, let me say this: if it is, you got my vote.
All right, awesome.
You know that, Eric. I'm always for the kid. I'm always for.
I had my niece's grandfather. He passed away, but he would always tell me, man, you got to send me your credentials. You need to be put in the Hall of Fame. You should be put in the Hall of Fame. And this was 10 years ago, before I even got in MMA, just on my wrestling credentials alone. And, now with the wrestling credentials, man, are you kidding me? Who's going to have the Michael Jordan of MMA speak for them at the Hall of Fame ceremony? Who's going to have the Pele of MMA? Who's going to have the Ayrton Senna of MMA speak for them? So.
Last I remembered, Eric, the Florida Sports Hall of Fame was in Lake City, Florida. I used to get correspondence from them. I haven't, but I'm going to check on that. Seriously, I will check on that and see if they're still doing it, still running. Yeah.
I should send you a couple of pictures. I have a couple of pictures, nice pictures of me with my 4 belts, with my 2 fighters, and then I have pictures with all my fighters. It's more of like a Photoshop thing. But it's pretty cool. Now, it's only on my phone. I don't know how well the pictures are going to look.
Well, we'll deal with that as far as just sending it over to me and seeing how we could do that, whether it be DMing or email or however. We can get that to me and I could check it out and see what that'll look like. That'd be really cool to put with the story too. So we'll see what we could do there with that. I'm gonna let you go.